we are watching with a lot of confusion and fascination as drones are hovering over the United States of America. Remember, a Chinese spy balloon floated clean across the country and received a lot of aggressive media coverage. The whole country wanted to know, why the hell is that happening? And it wasn't shot down until it was over the Atlantic Ocean. Mission achieved, and then the Biden administration just waited until it was not spying on anything of value, and then they shot it down. And now we have drones floating over regions, especially of northern New Jersey. Listen to an ABC News report from this morning.
Mystery in the sky now. Drones sighted all over the Northeast. The FBI is asking the public for help. Janae Norman is in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, with that story for us. Good morning, Janae.
Hey, Robin, good morning to you. Yeah, I'm here in Kennett Square because we've got a lot of fun coming up in our next hour regarding Christmas. But first, this story, it's making big news up where I live in North Jersey, Essex, Morris, Monmouth counties, where people are talking about this as far reported as Connecticut, all the way down here to the Philadelphia area, these drone sightings. And we are not talking about small toy-like drones that people would use for hobbies, but commercial grade drones, reportedly some the size of a small school bus or a small airplane. And neighbors are reportedly seeing these drones flying at night or in the early morning hours in flocks and at low altitudes.
So small school buses are flying over American towns. We don't have answers. Here's the governor of New Jersey yesterday.
What can you tell us? What is going on, and why is it taking so long to come up with an explanation?
Yeah, it's a good, I don't blame people for being frustrated. Let me say, most importantly, right up front, we see no evidence, and I say we, this includes Homeland Security, FBI, Secret Service, our state police, authorities at all levels of government. The most important point to say is we don't see any concern for public safety.
They don't see any concern for public safety. Well, first of all, how can you say that if you don't know anything about them? Phil Murphy continued.
These are apparently very, as I understand it, very sophisticated. The minute you get eyes on them, they go dark.
What?
And, you know, we're obviously most concerned about sensitive targets and sensitive critical infrastructure. So we've got military assets, we've got utility assets, we've got the president-elect's one of his homes here.
But we have no concerns about safety? What is going on? For more on this, I want to bring in a guest whose town is being affected by it. He's a New Jersey Assemblyman, that is, by the name of Mike Inganamort. He represents New Jersey's 24th district, and he joins us now. Sir, good to have you with us.
Great to be on, Vince.
Now, I should also emphasize that Corey. Now, this is what Corey wrote on my paper. Okay, he wrote that you are his less impressive brother. Now, I didn't say that. He wrote that on this paper, so that's a part of your title, apparently.
Well, listen, Vince, because your show does not reach into my district, I'll agree with him just this one time. How about that?
All right, fair enough. Hey, so what is this? What is happening to your town right now? Just describe what you're seeing.
Sure. Well, I'll paint a picture for you, Vince. I mean, basically, for the past 3 weeks, literally 3 weeks, New Jerseyans in the district I represent, in the town where I live, Chester, New Jersey, in the northwest part of the state, we have gone out at night, we've looked up into the sky, and we see anywhere from 1 to 12 drones buzzing through our neighborhoods every single night. Last night, the night before, and I'll bet you tonight, we're maybe 2 hours away from seeing them reappear tonight, if I had to guess. And because this has been going on night after night, week after week, we're up to week 3 on this. You can imagine the phone is ringing off the hook at the police station, in the mayor's office, in my legislative office. There are concerned residents, I'm one of them, asking what the heck is going on. And as of tonight, Vince, you heard those clips that you just played. We have not gotten any answers, no answers whatsoever.
But the feds, somebody within the federal government has to know what this is. I feel like we're being lied to at a massive scale because the FBI is asking for tips. They say, oh, call the tip line, let us know. But there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency from any level of government to take these drones out of the sky, given that, they're the size of, have you ever heard of the drones the size of school buses hovering over American towns?
I have never heard of it until now. The reality here is stranger than the fiction. So you're absolutely right. I don't see that urgency. There's a lot of urgency coming out of my office and the mayors and police departments and constituents I talk to who want answers, but it's falling on deaf ears, and you're seeing a very passive response from Governor Murphy, his administration, and the federal government as well, Vince. I mean, they're saying there's no cause for concern, but please call the FBI. How do those two things go together? Don't worry about it, but please call the country's Federal Bureau of Investigation.
I mean, the same is true of Governor Murphy. So I just played this clip of him saying that the public needs to know that there is no threat or there should be no concern for public safety. And then simultaneously he says, but we're very worried that these drones are flying over military bases and near the residence of the incoming president of the United States. I don't actually see how those two statements work in concert.
They do not. They do not. And he's zeroing in on an important point here. I'll give him that. Where I live in this part of Northwest New Jersey, the district I represent, we are sandwiched in between two critical national security assets. Picatinny Arsenal, which is worth a Google later on for your listeners, which is a military base in Northwest New Jersey that provides all of the ammunition for America's military. Talk about a critical asset. On the other side of our district, we have, as you probably know, President Trump's golf course, Trump National in Bedminster. For a long time, the first week when these drones appeared, they were primarily corralled between those two locations. And frankly, we just made an assumption that it had something to do with it. Now that these drones are being spotted all the way down at the Jersey Shore, they're going all the way up to the Pennsylvania-New York border. We're talking total coverage across the entirety of the state of New Jersey.
Yes.
No answers, but call the FBI.
So you said in your town you're seeing anywhere between 1 to a dozen drones every single evening. What are they doing? Are they just sitting in a holding pattern? Do they land? Do they come down to the earth? What are they doing?
Well, they have not been landing. They have not been coming down to the earth. We wish they were, because then we might be able to identify them and understand what the heck is going on here.
Yeah.
Vince, there's really no rhyme or reason to it. They spin around, they move here, they move there, they're stationary for a bit. Occasionally they'll line up in a perfect line, which is interesting to observe. And there were some theories out there that it might have something to do with Elon Musk's Starlink. I think that's been ruled out by the armchair pundits who think that those, satellites and other technology are far higher up in, into the outer reaches of the atmosphere. There's no rhyme or reason to it. They zip around our neighborhoods. They come and they go. The only thing that is certain about them is that they appear every night around 6:30, 7 o'clock.
I mean, do they pose a risk in the airspace to any other air traffic? And the FAA, I keep hearing that they've imposed flight restrictions on this airspace, and yet you're still seeing dozens of drones each night? Oh, he just dropped? Okay. All right, well, we'll get him back in just a moment. We're speaking to, as I pointed out, that's Cory Inganamort's brother, but important for today, he's an assemblyman who represents the 24th District in New Jersey. That's an area of northern New Jersey, Mike Inganamort, and he says they're seeing each night in his neighborhood anywhere between 1 to a dozen of these drones. The reports, as we've been discussing, are that the drones are as big as SUVs or small school buses. And as Mike was just telling us, occasionally they will pull together into a formation. They'll all just line up, and you've got citizens looking up at the sky, wondering with each passing night, what are these? Who's responsible for them? And when am I going to finally get some answers? Mike, we've got you back with us now. Why don't we have any clear images of these things? I've seen a lot of cell phone videos from the ground. At night, it's a little harder to capture images of things like this. Can somebody put their own drone up in the air just to capture some close video of these guys?
I suppose you could. People are trying all sorts of creative things to use, a high-powered camera lens to get their own drones up there. All of these things sound nice, but you realize quickly how big the night sky is, and these drones move real quick, really, really quick. So it's hard to keep up with them and really track them. Again, but Vince, keep in mind, we're doing this as, ordinary Americans. We don't have the type of military-grade equipment to track these things with any amount of specificity, really dialing into where these drones are going. That is what we have America's military for and law enforcement to track these things in a more meaningful way.
So do you have, it sounds to me like you're kind of just in the same position as all of your neighbors are, wondering what's going on. You're a New Jersey Assemblyman. Is anyone answering your questions for you when you ask the state police or you ask the state government? Is anybody providing answers to you?
So for the longest time, Vince, we've been asking Governor Murphy and the State Department of Homeland Security to provide a briefing at a minimum for legislators. We've been making that request for over a week now. At long last, we do expect to have a briefing with the Department of Homeland Security and the governor tomorrow. So I hope that we'll have some answers. Frankly, I'm not very optimistic about it, but we will finally, at long last, hear from the governor and see what he has to say about this.
Yeah, and then the size of these things, we quoted the ABC report at the top. They said the size of small school buses. Can you, in your observations and your neighbors' observations, can you tell how big these things are?
They range. I mean, as far as I consider, the ones that I see most often appear to be maybe 6 feet across. I will say that I have not seen one that looked like the size of a school bus necessarily, but a smaller car, absolutely. These are large drones. These are not the type of thing you buy as a Christmas gift.
Right.
These are not recreational. These are not owned by residents of a town. This is something far more powerful. It's a large piece of equipment, and there's just so many of them, Vince. We're talking if there's a dozen over my neighborhood, what does that mean for the rest of the state of New Jersey? There must be hundreds of these things.
This is definitely, at least for the month, one of the craziest stories in the whole country. We have a lot of crazy stories, and I feel like it's not receiving as much. Even though like ABC did a report on it, it just is not receiving the attention and scrutiny it deserves. So I'm really grateful that you stopped by to talk about this, Mike Inganamort. And hey, Corey, how did he do? Did he do okay?
I think he did really well, Vince. Almost as good as I would have if I was an assemblyman in New Jersey. Can I ask Mike, though, so the government's being so secretive about it, and they're saying, that's not a cause for concern and not to worry or anything. Are they just downplaying this? And if they are, do you think it actually is the federal government involved with these drones, or could this be a foreign actor? Who do you think is responsible for these?
Well, it's a great question. Again, we're operating with no information here. We have no way of knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
I think if nothing else, if the federal government or the governor or his administration at least told us who was operating the drones, that could, depending on his answer, provide some measure of comfort. I mean, if this is an American military operation for some national security purpose, I think most Americans would give them some amount of deference on this.
I just don't
need to know that.
I just don't get how you can fly a craft of this size without having any sort of markers or indication of where it's from. So, like every other type of vehicle like this in the United States has either lettering or licensing involved, right? So if you drive a car, you have a license plate. And you're going by license plate scanners on the highway constantly. Everyone knows where you are. The cops know where you are at any given moment. Your boat has, you literally register your boat. You have numbers on the side of it indicating your boat. If you fly an aircraft in the United States, I can go on FlightAware right now. I can track every flight in the country. How do we have fleets of drones without any distinguishing tracking or ownership that are the size of small vehicles? How does that happen?
You're asking all the right questions, and this is why people are so spooked. This is such an unnerving thing. I'm going to look up in the sky tonight and wonder what the heck is going on. So we're flying blind here, pun intended, and we're just looking for answers. We want to know what's going on. Are these the good guys or the bad guys or something else entirely? We are well past the date when we deserve answers.
All right. It turns out the also great Mike Inganamort from the Inganamort family, Assemblyman up in New Jersey. Sir, thank you very much today for that update.